The grand hall of the Interstellar Council glittered with light from thousands of hovering crystals. Every surface seemed alive, reflecting colors that came not just from the lamps above, but from the skins, scales, and feathers of the countless species gathered there. The air carried a low hum, as if the voices of history itself were echoing within the chamber. For humanity, this was the most important day in their short life among the stars. Their ships were young compared to the vast fleets of older empires, their colonies fewer, their weapons smaller. Yet somehow, through persistence, curiosity, and stubborn courage, they had reached this hall to request full membership in the council. Captain Elias Ward, chosen to represent his people, stood tall, in his dark blue uniform. He was not the tallest in the hall, nor the most decorated, but there was a stillness about him that made him noticeable even among giants and creatures of fire. His eyes were steady, watching, learning. It was then that Prince Joran of the Karith Empire rose from his place. The Karith were one of the oldest and proudest civilizations in the galaxy. Their ships could blot out suns. Their warriors had conquered whole systems before humans even built their first telescopes. Joran was only 21 years old by his species' measure, but he carried himself with the arrogance of someone born to rule. His skin shone with metallic silver scales and his golden cloak shimmered like liquid light. He pointed at Elias with a clawed finger and laughed. "Behold, the ape who would stand among gods," the prince said. His voice carried through the chamber, amplified by the council's systems. "Your species crawled from mud only moments ago, and yet here you are, demanding a place beside the eternal. Tell me, human, what makes you worthy, or do you come only to beg for protection, like a child clinging to stronger hands?" Laughter rippled across some parts of the hall. Several species shook their heads. Others leaned forward with interest, waiting to see how the human would react. Captain Ward's heart beat steadily, though he could feel the sting of the insult. He remembered his orders. Humanity must never show weakness, but neither must they lose control. He took a slow breath and thought of Earth, the rivers, the mountains, the faces of those who had sent him here. He did not bow. He did not speak. Instead, Elias turned. Calmly, silently, he walked away from the prince's gaze. His boots tapped softly against the floor as he returned to his seat at the edge of the hall. His expression never changed. His back was straight, his eyes forward. The silence that followed was heavier than the insult itself. For a moment, no one moved. Then the chamber erupted with noise. Some aliens roared with laughter, certain that the human had been too afraid to answer. Others whispered in confusion, unsure what the gesture meant. In their cultures, walking away without words was a grave insult in itself, or sometimes a show of supreme confidence. Prince Joran's smirk faltered as he watched. He had expected anger, shouting, perhaps even a reckless challenge. He had wanted to see humanity humiliated in a storm of emotion. Instead, he was left speaking to the air, as though his words were not worth answering. "Coward," Joran muttered, but there was unease in his eyes. At his seat, Captain Ward folded his hands and sat in silence. He did not glance at the prince nor at the delegates around him. He simply waited, letting the storm of voices crash and fade. Inside, he felt the burn of pride, but also a steady certainty. He knew that words would not win this day. Actions would. Among the council, a few sharp-minded observers noticed what others did not. The elder of the Tayari, whose people valued patience above all, leaned toward his aide. "Did you see?" the elder whispered. The human gave no reply, because he needed none. That is not weakness. That is the stillness of a hunter. Nearby, a member of the crystalline Vaith recorded the moment carefully, her mind already calculating what it could mean for the balance of power. The council chair, an ancient being with wings like flowing water, finally raised a hand to quiet the hall. "Enough," the chair said. "The trials will speak louder than words. Let each species prepare." The meeting moved forward, but the insult and the silence lingered like a shadow over the room. For some, the human had lost face. For others, the human had revealed a dangerous kind of strength. As the council adjourned, Prince Joran stood alone for a moment, his claws curling against his palms. His laughter had faded, replaced by a spark of doubt he would never admit. And Captain Elias Ward? He rose from his seat and walked out of the chamber with the same quiet dignity as before. He did not need to look back to know that many eyes were following him. Some with mockery, some with respect, and some with fear of what silence might mean. The insult was meant to make humanity small. But in walking away without a word, Elias had begun something no one expected. He had planted the seed of a legend. The insult and the silence traveled through the council halls like fire through dry grass. Every corridor, every chamber echoed with whispers of the event. The younger races laughed openly, saying the human was too weak to defend himself. The older races spoke more carefully, unsure whether to dismiss the silence as fear or to study it as a sign of something deeper. Prince Joran enjoyed the laughter at first. He walked proudly with his golden cloak flowing behind him, telling his companions how easily he had silenced the human envoy. "They crawl among the stars like insects," he said to a circle of admirers, "and I have crushed one beneath my heel without lifting a sword." The Kareth nobles cheered him, but even among them, not all were convinced. General Takar, one of the prince's oldest advisors, spoke softly. "Your Highness, sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is a mask. Be wary." Joran waved him away. "He is nothing. A man with no claws, no fangs, no empire. I gave him a wound. And he could not even answer. What danger is there in that?" But the whispers continued. Delegates from the Tayari, who believed silence was a weapon stronger than shouting, spread the story differently. To them, Captain Elias Ward was not humiliated. He was patient, a hunter waiting for the right moment. The Vaith, beings of crystal, thought and memory, stored the moment carefully, calculating what it might mean for future alliances. Even the fierce Harnack warriors, who lived by strength and blood, found themselves troubled. "A warrior who walks away," one Harnack elder muttered, "is either broken or certain he does not need to fight." Meanwhile, Captain Ward himself did nothing to change the rumor. He stayed in his quarters, preparing for the trials ahead. He read the files on each challenge, studying the strengths and weaknesses of the other races. He drilled with his small team of humans, soldiers, scientists, and explorers chosen to represent Earth. To them he gave no speech about pride or insult. "We are here to show who we are," he told them simply. "Not with words, but with actions. Let the prince talk. Let him laugh. We will answer when it matters." The humans nodded. They trusted Elias because he never wasted breath. His orders were always clear, his confidence steady. He was not a man who burned brightly with fire, but one who burned slowly and endlessly like coals that never died. The council soon turned its focus to the trials. Membership was not given with speeches alone. Each species had to prove themselves in a series of tests, trials of strength, trials of mind, and trials of survival. It was tradition, designed to show whether a people deserved to sit among the stars as equals. As the first day of trials drew near, the story of the insult became sharper. The question spread across the hall. Was humanity truly weak, or was there silence hiding a blade? Prince Joran began to feel the weight of his own words. At every gathering, someone asked him about the human. "Will they break in the first trial?" one delegate asked mockingly. "Or will they rise in silence and shame you?" another teased. The prince forced himself to laugh, but his pride ached. He had wanted to crush humanity's spirit, not give them an aura of mystery. The more people talked about the silence, the less certain they seemed about his victory. General Takar noticed the change. "You may have handed them a weapon without meaning to," he warned. "A story is a powerful thing, sometimes stronger than a fleet." Joran scowled. "Then I will destroy the story in the trials. When the humans fail, their silence will be remembered only as fear." The day of the first trial came at last. The great hall was reshaped by machines, its floor opening to reveal a vast arena. Delegates filled the balconies, their voices rising like thunder. At the center, banners of each competing race were raised. Among them, the banner of Earth stood plain, blue and white, the curve of their world against the stars. Elias Ward led his team into the arena. They walked without armor, without weapons more advanced than what the council allowed. Other races gleamed in silver exosuits, carried blades of plasma, or shone with natural armor that grew from their bodies. The humans looked small beside them, fragile even. From the balcony, Zoran leaned forward and shouted so all could hear, "Watch carefully! The apes who dared to walk among us will crawl again today. Their silence ends in dust." The crowd roared, with laughter, but Elias did not look up. He guided his team to their place in the arena, calm as stone. His silence continued, and again, it unsettled more than words ever could. As the trial master raised his staff and the first challenge appeared, the whispers swirled like a storm. Are the humans weak? Or are they waiting? No one knew. Not yet. But the Cylon. The arena was alive with light and sound. The floor shifted beneath the feet of the competitors, revealing a landscape that changed with every second. Tall rock pillars, narrow ridges, and sudden pits that seemed to appear from nowhere. Meet-and-Eye. First trial was designed to test adaptability, strategy, and endurance. Every species had their own way of surviving, but the humans had only what they carried: their courage, their teamwork, and their wits. Captain Elias Ward scanned the arena, carefully. "Watch the traps, watch each other. Move together," he instructed his team, his voice calm but firm. Each word carried a weight that made his small group move like one organism. There was no panic, no hesitation. The other species laughed. At first, Joran's Kareth warriors leapt effortlessly from pillar to pillar, using strength and claws to dominate the course. The towering Harnack strode across the terrain as if it were flat ground, ignoring pitfalls. Even the Vaith, crystalline and calculating, used their mental abilities to foresee some traps before stepping. But then, the humans began to show a different kind of strength. They did not leap blindly. They did not rely on sheer force. Instead, they observed the movements of others, tested weak points in the terrain, and used their environment to their advantage. When a sudden chasm opened in front of a teammate, Elias called for a rope-like device his team had prepared. While the other species struggled to leap over it, the human crossed safely, helping others along the way. When the Kareth assumed brute power would crush obstacles, the humans used simple levers and sticks to create temporary bridges and balance points. Prince Zoran's expression darkened as he watched from the balcony. "These apes, they are clever, but they are small. They will tire. They cannot match the strength of the Kareth." Yet with each passing moment, the humans' calm and methodical approach began to turn heads. The Tayari observers whispered to each other, leaning closer. "Notice how they act as one," an elder said. "They wait. They watch. They strike with the precision of a predator. This is not weakness." It was true. The humans moved with patience, reading the patterns of the shifting arena, predicting hazards before they became threats. While the Yaidash Kareth relied on muscle and Zoran's pride, the humans relied on observation and unity. At one point, a mechanical hazard, a wall of energy spikes, rose suddenly in the center of the arena. Most species leapt or tried to smash through it, risking injury or failure. Captain Ward stopped his team just in time. "Circle around. Use the ridge to the left," he instructed. One by one, the humans maneuvered through the gap, careful, precise, and calm. They emerged on the other side without a single injury. The crowd fell silent. Not a cheer, not a murmur. Even Joran's allies paused, uncertain how to react. The human had done nothing heroic in the sense of strength or violence. He had only thought, calculated, and acted, yet that act spoke louder than any display of power. Ward's team continued moving through the arena, helping each other where needed. One teammate slipped on a narrow ledge and another reached out, steadying them with a firm grip. When the Vaith tried to mentally manipulate a part of the course, the humans adapted instantly. avoiding traps and turning challenges to their advantage. Joran felt a strange emotion he did not recognize. He had expected a moment of humiliation for the humans. Instead, they were teaching him a lesson he did not want to learn. Restraint, patience, and unity were power too. The Kareth, frustrated by their own mistakes, began to falter. Their pride made them reckless. One warrior miscalculated a jump and fell into a soft pit. Another charged blindly into a hazard, his strength useless against the arena's cunning design. The humans, though smaller and weaker physically, moved, steadily, avoiding disaster after disaster. By the midpoint of the trial, the whisper had spread throughout the audience. Humanity was not failing. They were surviving. More than that, they were excelling. The final challenge of the first trial was a puzzle platform high above the arena floor. Competitors had to arrange moving panels to form a bridge to the exit. Many species tried to force their way, using strength or mental energy to manipulate the pieces. Only the humans paused, studying the mechanism carefully. Think, not push, Elias reminded his team. The solution is in observation, not force. Slowly, methodically, they shifted the panels. Teamwork ensured that no one moved too quickly or too slowly. When the bridge finally aligned, they crossed together, each step precise, each movement coordinated. The crowd erupted, not with laughter, but with genuine amazement. Joran's face turned red, not with exertion, but with anger and disbelief. He had underestimated the humans, believing that words and strength could define a species. He had been wrong. The silence of Captain Ward had been the calm before the storm, a storm of skill, unity, and intelligence that he could not deny. By the time the trial ended, the humans were among the top performers. They had neither shown flashy power nor reckless courage, yet they had proven themselves. Other delegates began nodding in respect. The whispers of the Teari elders and Vaith observers grew louder. Humanity had arrived, not with force, but with mastery of patience and teamwork. Captain Ward finally allowed himself a small smile. He had walked away from insult without a word, and now he had led his team to success where words could never have done so. He looked up at Prince Zoran, who was still glaring from the balcony. Ward's calm expression did not falter. The message was clear. Humanity did not need to prove itself with anger or revenge. Their strength was already evident in action, the crowd began to leave. Murmuring about the unexpected performance of the humans, Joran remained frozen, his mind racing. The insult he had delivered, meant to belittle, had only revealed a different kind of power. He had been the first to speak, but he might not be the last to learn. And in that moment, the ripple of silence that began in the grand hall now grew into something more. A quiet respect for a species that refused to respond with anger but always acted with strength. The halls of the Interstellar Council were filled with murmurs long after the first trial ended. Aliens of every shape and size walked slowly through the corridors, talking in low tones about the humans. The word had spread quickly. Humanity had not only survived the trial, they had excelled. Prince Joran paced in his private chamber, his golden cloak brushing the polished floor. His claws tapped sharply with each step. He could not shake the feeling of unease that had settled over him since the humans' victory. He had expected to see them humbled, frightened, or angry. Instead, they had acted with calm, precision, and teamwork, an answer far stronger than any words of anger could have delivered. Perhaps, muttered General Takar, you underestimated them. Joran spun to face his advisor. Underestimated? How can a species so young, so weak, move with such control? They are nothing but apes, and yet... He clenched his fists, struggling to find the words. They make me question everything. Takar bowed slightly. Your Highness, it is not their strength you should fear, but their patience. Silence, as they have shown, can be more powerful than force. A human who walks away without answering may be waiting for the perfect moment. The prince growled softly, unwilling to admit the truth in those words. He had insulted the human envoy, expecting ridicule and fear in return. But Elias Ward had not responded. He had walked away, unshaken, and now his people were proving themselves through action. In the arena, the second trial had begun. Unlike the first, this challenge was designed to test diplomacy and strategy. Species had to negotiate alliances, solve conflicts, and work together to achieve objectives. The humans entered quietly, led by Ward. There were no boasts, no loud proclamations. They simply observed, listened, and acted when necessary. Prince Joran watched from above, frowning. He had decided to confront the human directly. I will show him, he thought. I will prove that pride and power speak louder than any silent human. During the trial, the humans were paired with a mixture of species, some friendly, some aggressive. Ward remained calm, his team attentive and ready. They solved problems not with force, but with reasoning, patience, and subtle persuasion. When conflicts arose among allies, the humans mediated with a careful balance of empathy and logic. Joran could hardly believe what he saw. While his own species shouted commands and tried to dominate, the humans quietly created solutions that benefited everyone. They were small, yes, but their influence grew steadily, like roots spreading through the soil. At one point, Zoran could no longer contain his frustration. He approached Ward directly, claws extended as if to intimidate. Human, he barked. Why do you ignore me? Is it fear or arrogance? Speak, answer me. Ward did not flinch, he did not turn. His voice was calm, carrying across the field without any hint of fear. I do not need to prove myself to you, he said simply. My actions will speak for themselves. The prince's anger flared, but it was met with a quiet that he could not break. Around them, other species began whispering, watching the interaction. Joran's aggression seemed small compared to the humans' restraint. The trial continued, and the humans' quiet leadership guided their allies to success. Tasks that seemed impossible were completed with cooperation and thoughtful planning. By the time the trial ended, it was clear that humanity had achieved more than any of the other smaller species. They had earned the respect of Gates, T. Honria. The final trial was the most challenging of all. It was not a test of strength alone nor of intelligence, but of cooperation. A simulation had been created to mimic a galaxy-wide crisis. An unstable planet threatened to explode, sending dangerous debris into the surrounding systems. Each species was given a role to play, and they had to work together to stabilize the situation before catastrophe struck. The arena was enormous, stretching far beyond what any human eye could see. There were hazards, energy storms, crumbling platforms, and creatures that were part of the simulation's design. Every species had unique abilities that could be used to succeed, but the humans had nothing beyond their wits, their courage, and their teamwork. Captain Elias Ward studied the map projected before his team. This is not about fighting. It's about thinking, observing, and acting together, he told them. We will coordinate, plan, and execute. Everyone has a role. Trust each other. His team nodded, eyes bright and determined. They had survived 2 trials already and had learned that calm action could achieve what others could not. Now their skills would be tested to the limit. The trial began. Species scattered to their stations. The Kareth, led by Prince Joran, charged ahead, attempting to dominate every section. They tried to use sheer power to move debris, to control energy fields, and to command other species into following orders. But the simulation was unpredictable, designed to punish arrogance. Platforms shifted suddenly, energy spikes erupted, and debris fell in ways no brute force could anticipate. Meanwhile, the humans moved methodically. They coordinated not only among themselves but also with other species, communicating clearly and calmly. When a platform threatened to collapse under a heavier species, a human teammate quickly rigged a support using available materials. When another species' efforts conflicted, Elias mediated, ensuring the plan worked for all. The differences became clear. The Kareth's pride led them to errors. Joran barked commands, expecting obedience, and when it was not given, frustration clouded his judgment. The humans, patient and observant, adjusted their actions to help wherever needed, often preventing disaster before it could happen. Then a critical moment arrived. One section of the arena, controlled by volatile energy, began to fail. Debris fell toward the Kareth and several smaller species. Panic spread. Joran tried to act alone, attempting to save his team with brute force. The effort failed. Debris struck his squad, leaving them trapped. Captain Ward acted immediately. With precise movements and calm commands, the humans and their allies stabilized the area. They rescued the trapped Kareth warriors, including Joran himself. Every action was calculated, every word clear and directed, and soon, the crisis passed. The audience in the observation chambers fell silent. No one had expected humans to save not only themselves but also the very species that had insulted and mocked them. Delegates whispered in amazement. The Tayari nodded, impressed by the humans' calm coordination. Even the Vaith, who analyzed every action, recorded humanity's performance as exemplary. Joran, drenched in sweat and frustration, looked at Captain Ward. The human had done what no one else could. He had preserved life, guided allies, and solved the crisis without a single act of arrogance or aggression. The insult that had started this entire ordeal seemed trivial now. The human's silence and patience had spoken louder than any words. Why didn't you respond? Joran asked, his voice quiet and unsteady. Why did you not fight me? Answer my words. Ward looked at him evenly, calm and steady. Because humanity does not rise or fall on the words of the arrogant. We rise on what we do. Joran stared, speechless. This simple truth struck him more deeply than any physical blow could have. He had aimed to humiliate a species he considered weak. Instead, they had demonstrated intelligence, courage, and honor beyond his understanding. Around them, the other species began to show signs of respect. Applause erupted, not for humans alone, but for the lesson that had been delivered. Restraint, patience, and cooperation could overcome arrogance, pride, and brute force. The trial ended with the humans placed among the top performers. Their calm decisiveness had prevented disaster and saved lives, including those of species that had once looked down on them. Humanity had not needed weapons, claws, or advanced technology to shine. They had only their minds, their courage, and their unity. As the results were announced, Prince Joran stood silently. The shame he had carried for days, the weight of underestimating the humans, pressed heavily on him. The insult he had intended to wound them had backfired spectacularly. The human had not fought back. Instead, he had elevated all of humanity to a new level of respect. Captain Ward gathered his team. We have done what we came to do, he said softly. We have shown who we are not through words but through action. Let the council remember this day. The humans nodded. They had not sought glory or revenge. They had acted because it was right. And in doing so, they had earned admiration from every corner of the galaxy. Joran remained frozen for a moment longer, trying to process the revelation. He had learned a lesson he could not forget. Strength was not only in power or pride, but also in patience, action, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your worth. In the following council meeting, delegates spoke openly of the humans' achievements. They have taught us something we have long forgotten, said a Tayari elder. That honor, intelligence, and calm action are as strong as any blade. Even the Kareth nobles, who had laughed at first, now looked at the humans with something close to respect. Joran, however, struggled to accept it. The young prince had faced humility in a way he had never imagined. Captain Ward, standing quietly, let the council's praise pass around him. He did not gloat. He did not raise his voice. He simply allowed the humans' actions to speak. The ripple of silence that began in the grand hall now flowed into a current of admiration, leaving no room for insult to linger. And for the first time, Prince Joran realized that the human who had walked away without a word had already won the greater battle. Actions mattered more than words, and restraint could carry more weight than pride. Humanity's place in the galaxy had been secured, not by aggression, not by anger, but by calm, clever action and a quiet refusal to respond to insult. And in Yitzhak That truth, every species, even those who had mocked them, could see that a new power had risen among the stars. The final council meeting was unlike any other in history. Delegates from dozens of species filled the grand chamber, each one still buzzing from the events of the last trials. Holographic displays showed the moments of courage, teamwork, and intelligence that had defined humanity's performance. Every eye was on the humans, and for the first time, Captain Elias Ward felt a sense of quiet satisfaction, not from pride, but from knowing that action, not words, had spoken for his people. Prince Joran stood at the edge of the chamber, his golden cloak heavy on his shoulders. He had tried to humiliate the humans, tried to provoke a response, and failed. And now, after witnessing the trials, he felt something he had not expected: respect, tinged with embarrassment. The young prince had been arrogant, believing that strength and insult could define the outcome of the day. He had underestimated humanity, and the lesson had been harsh. The council chair, an ancient being with wings like liquid silver, raised a clawed hand. "We have witnessed a remarkable demonstration of skill, courage, and wisdom," the chair began. "A species that has walked among us quietly, observing and acting, has earned respect through deeds rather than words. Humanity stands as an example to all. Strength is measured not only by power but by patience, unity, and honor." The chamber erupted in applause. Delegates cheered, clapped, and some even bowed in acknowledgement. Yet, Elias Ward remained calm. He did not smile too widely, did not raise his hands. He simply stood with his team, quietly accepting the respect they had earned. Joran's gaze fell upon him. "Human," the prince said, his voice low but steady, "you have proven yourself beyond any doubt. I misjudged you. I misjudged your species. You have shown a strength I cannot match with words or pride alone." Elias turned to face him, his expression calm but firm. "Prince Zoran," he said evenly, "humanity does not rise or fall on insults. We rise on what we do and the choices we make when it matters most. We acted because it was right, not because of your words." For a moment, the chamber was silent. Even the delegates, who had been cheering moments before, paused to witness this exchange. A silence of respect filled the air, a silence that spoke louder than any applause. The prince bowed his head slightly, acknowledging the lesson. It was not humility born of weakness, but humility earned through understanding. He had sought to elevate himself by diminishing another, and instead he had been taught the value of restraint, patience, and action over pride. The council chair continued, addressing all delegates. "Let it be recorded that the human species has demonstrated qualities that transcend age, strength, and experience. Let future generations remember that honor, calm, and clever action can shape history more than arrogance or insult." As the meeting concluded, Elias Ward led his team from the chamber. Their steps were measured, their demeanor steady. They had not shouted, they had not demanded recognition, and yet the respect they carried with them was evident. Other species looked on, not with